Hello, today is Wednesday, February 14th, which is Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Welcome to episode 414 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI fellow Jessica Jones. I'm joined by two of our favorites, Bishop Garrison and Algene Sadri. We are speaking about heart to heart, Indian President Modi's visit to the White House and meeting with President Donald Trump. India and the US are, of course, the world's largest democracies. And over the past couple decades, the two countries have strengthened their ties on multiple fronts: military collaboration, intelligence sharing, and economic partnerships. India is a key player in the US Indo-Pacific strategy, serving as a counterbalance to China's influence in the region. On the personal side, Modi enjoys, a kind of kinship with President Trump, and the two leaders have even called each other friends. During his first term, Trump received a warm welcome when he visited India. But what's on the agenda when they met yesterday? Of course, trade. Trump's consistent and favorite talking point, tariffs. He's made it a priority to readdress the trade imbalance between the two countries. The U.S. is India's largest trading partner, which buys more than 18% of its exports. And also immigration. Outside of Latin America, India has the highest number of unauthorized migrants in the U.S. So what came from the meeting? Quickly, Delhi agreed to import more American energy. They discussed ongoing military defense partnership, and Modi said that he would consider reducing tariffs on a number of items. Okay, so since it's, Bishop, I want to turn first to you. What's your take on this? Was this actually a big meeting? Did what came out of it actually matters, or is just this another kind of visit to curry favor with the new president?
No, I think this was huge, in part because Modi and Trump have for a long time shared at least what appears to be mutual respect and appreciation of one another. Modi has long kind of, in his own influence in his own country, kind of demonstrated a lot of similar characteristics and aspects of policy that Trump has. Yesterday, Trump said that the United States were going to sell F-35s to the Indian government for defensive purposes. And Modi said that, we're going to take back somewhere in the neighborhood of 725 or 750,000 Indian immigrants living in the United States right now that are deemed to be unauthorized. So, just from the start of that, those are going to be two huge things. There's going to be space for them to continue to discuss and negotiate on immigration as the H-1B visa status debate really flared up here in the United States. But at the end of the day, we need a dedicated, properly skilled workforce in order to meet the criteria necessary to be successful and to maintain our competitive edge with AI and emerging technologies. So, and part of that is going to come from talent outside the U.S. And I think industry definitely understands that and knows that. I think a lot of government officials do. And we're just going to have to continue to work with countries like India to make sure we right size. And then finally, there is a trade deficit. It's about $46 billion difference between the U.S. Exports and India. So there is space for that discussion. I think Trump uses the flare up in the discussion with tariffs to bring countries to the table. It remains to be seen whether or not that's always going to be the best negotiating tool for diplomacy in this regard. But there's a lot of opportunity for the two countries to kind of right size their efforts here. And it's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward.
I believe Modi walked in already conceding some lowering tariffs on Harley Davidsons. So I'm sure that made some group of Americans very happy getting cheaper bikes. So Algene, talking about, it's Valentine's Day, the personal connection. Bishop also brought up industry.
Can we also just note it's the 414th episode on.
I know. I almost said that during the opening. I was like, 414. This is just serendipity, guys.
Wow.
And if you're watching on YouTube, Algene's also rocking some serious reds. So please check us out there. Bishop, brought up the personal. It's Valentine's Day. What do you make of the relationship between these two leaders? And, Bishop also brought up industry. There was an interesting side discussion that happened when Modi was in town. He met with Elon Musk, who is, another speaking of special relationships with the president. What do you make of that sidebar conversation too?
Well, certainly there is a deep palship between uh, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi that's been ongoing for many years. A very strong kinship there, I think, in their approach to governance. I really am fascinated by the little side courtship going on between Elon Musk and Prime Minister Modi and what that means for the American people. And also, it's interesting because Musk is a special government employee as head of Doge, but also he's the richest man in the world, right? And he has all sorts of business interests in India, and he's been courting India on multiple fronts for um, various business activities, including Starlink and others. And so, what does that mean that he has his own private side relationship and side meeting and courtship with Modi outside of the formal meeting with President Trump? I think it's really fascinating. I think it's something that if we saw on the world stage with another world leader and a private industry leader in another country, we would question what that means as far as that relationship and what that means for that business relationship. And so it's a very curious and interesting courtship. I'll be watching it very closely. And I think, there are a lot of questions to be asked about it.
And yeah, I think to that point, as these meetings continue between world leaders, how many other sidebars continue as well, and what may come of that? That's a very interesting thing to continue. I will like to see, following things to the personal relationship, whether, a lot of folks think the harsh rhetoric on tariffs is just the opening salvo, right, in negotiations. And so what if that is the opening salvo with India, one of our key partners, how he can wiggle that and see, how he can evade as much as possible the tariff anger that's going around. Okay. With that, thanks so much to Kelly Crawley, Cloud Jennings, and the NSI team, including Algene and Bishop, for joining today on Valentine's Day. Join us on Monday, February 17th, which is sadly not a holiday here on Fault Lines, for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. We're on YouTube. Check out our Valentine's Day faces there. And if you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.